Greetings, one and all, to the most cursed, most cringiest corner of the internet. A YouTube channel content creator, actively alienating everyone in both the analog and digital world. Well, welcome and good evening, wonderful dice of all alignments. I am Lunar D8. There is no death in your future. But that does not mean your decisions are without risk. Choices that matter. And the sun went out. Arc 1 begins. Day 95. And the orange ball of gas. That sustained life on this planet for billions of years was still burning in the sky. The scientists were completely wrong, thankfully. Something vibrated on my wrist. I raised my hand and studied the watch-like device. It was Moticon, or Mati, as I called them. Hello, teacher. The temperature this afternoon is a crisp 30 degrees Fahrenheit. I do hope you're wearing your warm jacket. Don't forget that you also need to pick up your travel documents from Miss Montague. She's expecting you at her home. Stepping out of the train car, I adjusted my coat. Monty was right. I should have worn the one with the wool lighting. Too late to worry about that now. Dolores Montague's house wasn't too far away from the train station. As my boots crunched through the snow, I felt Monty vibrating on my wrist. As ever, Monty's cheerful face greeted me. You have just received a message from Professor Soul. He is insisting you see his latest breakthrough right away. We will visit Professor Soul. Dolores could wait, even if Soul's matter wasn't urgent. He had become unhinged since the incident. We'll swing by the professor's place first, Monty. Send a message to Laura to let her know that I might be a little late. Okay. Would you like to review the message I composed? No, I trust you, Monty. Thank you, teacher. I have sent the message. Before I knew it, I was trudging through the bitter snow on the professor's front lawn. There was a dull, muffled noise coming from inside the house. I pushed the buzzer next to the front door and waited. Yes, a voice came through the intercom. It sounded a little strange. More than the usual, anyway. It's me, Professor. I'm in the basement. There was relief in his voice. Click. That was the sound of the door unlocking. Taking that as an invitation, I opened the door and let myself in. I noticed a large suitcase sitting by the front door. From its bulging sides, I had the impression it was overpacked. Was Soul going somewhere? He hadn't said anything about going on a trip. Go to the basement. I opened the door to the basement and gingerly felt my way down the wooden stairs. It was black as pitch down there, and I could barely see in front of my face. Suddenly, I was hit in the face by the light switch cord as I fumbled to grip it. A voice rasped in my ear. No! It must remain dark. Jumping from the shock of the hot breath on my ear, I let the cord go. Why can't I turn on the lights? Don't ask foolish questions. Come here. A dim glow appeared, highlighting a disheveled, unshaven face. His reddened eyes bored into mine as he beckoned me over with a bony finger. I hesitated, remembering what happened last time. Approached the professor. Slowly I inched toward the professor. Scattered papers of frenzied scrawling littering the desk and floor. An ocean of ideas spilling out from the brain and flooding the dark room. Something caught my eye. What? Okay. So... Oh, I'm supposed to... What am I supposed to do? You saw it too. Soul's tone reached fever pitch as a grimy finger pinned the paper with the strange symbol. He began to ramble incessantly about theories and equations. Scanning the desk, I noticed his battered diary of a lock. I wondered if its contents were more comprehensible than the professor. Leave the diary alone. Most people were fiercely protective of their diaries, and given the professor's penchant for dangerous experiments, and some of which I was an unwitting test subject, I decided it was best to leave the diary alone. Teacher, my linguistics processing unit might be damaged. I am unable to understand Professor Soul. I swallowed a laugh, knowing I had to gain control of this conversation. Somehow. Soul, I interrupted. Why did you call me? Call you? I didn't call you. Are you sure? Something about the sun. Soul paused for a moment, then looked at me excited. Yes, the sun. It all comes back to the sun. People have a right to. A glint caught my eye from the top of the stairs, and I instinctively stepped back. Okay, so somebody was on top stairs and shot the professor. No. Soul cried out, then slumped to the floor. Professor! I leaped to his side and fluttered my hands over his chest, desperate to stop the bleeding, but not wanting to hurt my friend. Hands shaking, I glanced back at the top of the stairs and spotted a shadowy figure running off. A gurgling sound made me turn my head back to Soul. He looked like he was trying to tell me something. Listen to what he's trying to tell me. I was never much good at anatomy in high school, but I knew what the chances were that he'd survive. I tilted my head and lowered my ear as close as possible to the professor's mouth, my heart thundering. Nothing. He was still. Soul. Teacher. The professor has passed. Damn it. Silently cursing, I was about to pull my trembling hands away from his chest when I felt something under the professor's lab coat. Steadying my hand, I reached in and pulled it out of his pocket. It was a cord sleeve containing a printed bus ticket, emblazoned with red and white coyote logo of the long-distance bus company. Itinerary scanned and stored. Travel destination. Flying Falls. A single thought broke through my shock. The murderer was getting away. Not having any time to think, I pushed the ticket into my pocket, ran out over Soul's working desk, and pulled open the top drawer, knowing what I'd find inside. The professor's revolver. It was a small gun at 8 inches in length, and it was made of sturdy stainless steel. I glanced over at Soul's lifeless body one last time. "I'm sorry, Professor," I whispered. I snatched up the revolver and leaped up the stairs. The murderer couldn't have gotten very far. Not with the adrenaline pumping through my veins. I could see the door swinging wide open from the attacker's intrusion. Charged through it, unwilling to risk Soul's murderer. I held my gun up and charged toward the exit. Bam! The door flung open as I burst the bitter cold of the street. Hurriedly, I scanned my surroundings. There was no one there. Teacher. There are footprints leading to the left. "Thanks, Marty," I said as I followed the trail, my boots sinking to the snow with each heavy step. Desperately, I scanned the street for anyone suspicious. The street was completely bare. It looked like my luck had run out, when suddenly, there, someone was getting into a bus. That could be them. But before I could go after them, I noticed someone else slipping into a nearby alley. One or the other, it couldn't be both of them. The shadowy figure disappeared down the alley, and I crunched through the fallen snow in hot pursuit. Skidding round the corner, my feet pounded the concrete. There, the tall person wearing an overcoat and a hat was running down the alley. They were too far away. I had to get their attention or they'd escape. Soul told me everything. It didn't work, not even a little. The person continued running at a surprising speed over the snow. Cursing under my breath, I pointed the revolver at the figure, my hand shaking. Chase. I lowered the gun and continued my pursuit on foot. I followed them to the alley, then saw the person had stopped in their tracks. They stared at me, and I couldn't help but gasp. Most of their face was hidden by their scarf, but I could see their eyes staring into my own. They glinted gold in the light, unsettling me. The person gave a muffled chuckle, and then they turned and ran, scrambling over the fence. "Hey, stop!" Realizing I was losing my one lead, I continued to chase after them, only to stop at the fence. Climb. I braced myself and took a running leap at the fence. I had made a good start, and I began to easily climb the wire when I misplaced a foot on a slick diamond mesh. There was too much ice. I barely managed to keep my balance as I hugged the fence. Keep climbing. After taking a deep breath, I continued pulling myself up the fence with both arms, trying to keep as much weight off my feet as possible. The ice had made the wire footholds unreliable. When I finally reached the top and swung one leg over, but before I could, my other leg, I slipped again. Only this time my hands slipped, and I fell helplessly over the other side of the fence. The last thing I remembered was the snow-covered concrete rushing toward my face. I opened my eyes and stared at the cloudy sky. I was on my back with snow in my clothes and hair. Teacher! Teacher! Are you okay? I'm fine, Moti, I said before wincing from the pain on the side of my head. I touched it and looked at my fingers. Flecks of dried blood. My head was bleeding, but no longer. How long was I out? Only 5 minutes, teacher. Please, you must go to the hospital. You might have a concussion. I don't think we have time for that. 5 minutes was more than enough time for the murderer to disappear. Feeling like I was missing something, I searched my surroundings, then it hit me. Professor Soul's revolver. It was missing. Golden eyes must have taken it. Then I felt my phone vibrating in my pocket. Nothing I can do about the revolver now. Moti, who's calling? It's Miss Montague. This is our 5th call. 5 calls in the past 5 minutes? Put her through, Moti. Actually, she's been calling for 10 minutes. Since during your pursuit, I'll put her through now, teacher. I heard the call connect. Dolores. Is everything okay? What? Of course not, Dolores answered, sounding bewildered. How long are you planning to make me wait? I winced, this time not from physical pain. Sorry. I'll be there as soon as I can. Just hurry up. She hung up the phone before I could say anything else. I would have told her about Soul's murder otherwise. It suddenly occurred to me that all of Soul's research, which I needed, was still in the professor's basement. On the other hand, I had to make Dolores wait long enough, and I really needed the itinerary from her. Teacher, what shall we do? We'll go to Dolores. We'll quickly swing by Dolores, get our stuff, and then we'll go to Soul's Moti. Stepping out of the main street, I flagged down a taxi. It was already mid-afternoon, and the snow-covered roads were about to get busier. Yes, teacher. It took me a moment to notice that Moti didn't have their usual jovial chirp. I'll be fine. My head doesn't hurt that bad, so quit worrying. Yes, teacher. I sighed, but did not say anything else. Your friend's having problems? Asked the taxi driver in a gruff voice as he switched to a faster lane. I turned to the driver. He had a neatly trimmed beard and a pair of red racing gloves. My friends have all been having panic attacks since that funny business with the sun, he continued. Not that it's ever bothered me. My friend's just a little worried, that's all. The taxi driver laughed. Sorry, I didn't mean to pry. Your friend is nothing to be ashamed of. Many people get panic attacks these days. No, you don't understand. My friend's not exactly built for panic attacks, I replied with a smile. He shrugged before whispering conspiratorially. Had a government official in my car yesterday. Word on the street they're going to be heavily subsidized Xanax to keep the population sedated. I nodded. It was news to me, but it didn't come as a surprise either. After about 15 minutes, just as the taxi pulled into South Street, Dolores called me again. Must be to complain about my tardiness. Dolores, before you say anything, I'm practically already there. Oh, yes, I hear you at the door now. The door? Dolores, that's not... Click. She hung up. Unsure what to make of that, I looked out the window as my taxi approached Dolores' house. The front door was obstructed by wooden fencing. so I couldn't see who was there. Something didn't feel right. I hurriedly paid the driver and jumped out of the taxi when... bang. The gunshot came from Dolores' house. I sprinted along the fence and through the gate, and the front door was slightly ajar.
Please be careful, teacher.
Dolores was being attacked. Every moment counted. Breaking into a sprint, I charged straight for this slightly ajar front door and went through it. I took a moment to scan my surroundings, ready to pounce. There was no one inside.
Teacher, it looks like there's been a struggle in here.
Monty was right. Some of the furniture was broken. A table lamp was smashed on the floor. Shards of a vase were scattered around the room. A bloody bread knife was laying in the middle of the room. The trail of chaos led me to Dolores' bedroom. One of the hinges of the bedroom door was broken, as if the door had been kicked in. There was a large open window in the bedroom, its curtains fluttering in the cold winter wind.
There's a high probability that Miss Montague has gotten away.
I looked out the open window. I hope you're right, Monty. There were tracks visible for a few feet, but they joined a well-traveled pavement after that. Pedestrians were about in South Street, and no one was acting strangely. Only moments ago, Dolores and her attacker were here, and yet I was unable to track them.
I highly recommend we leave, teacher. Someone might have reported the gunshot.
Not yet, Monty. We should look around a bit more.
Okay, where shall we begin?
There was a large footprint on the frame of the door leading to the bedroom, and the wood was splintered around it. I glanced over the heavy-looking dresser next to the door. It wasn't flush against the wall. Looking down, I understood why. There were drag marks on the floor, clearly a sign of the dresser being moved. Dolores must have used the dresser to barricade herself in the room before her attacker forced the door open.
It appears Miss Montague bought herself enough time to get away, teacher.
Agreed. This was a good thing, at least, and relief flooded through me. I went over to the dresser and started rummaging through it. Just clothing. Then I went through the box underneath her bed. Bills and various paperwork. Nothing out of the ordinary. Finally, I opened her wardrobe, revealing a safe sitting in the lower left corner.
Do you know its combination, teacher?
No, Monty. The safe looks sturdy, and there was no way I would be able to force it open. I don't think we'll need to see the inside of the safe today.
I'm sorry, teacher. Does this mean we're leaving now?
I shook my head. Not yet. Dolores was supposed to pass me the itinerary today. It's not exactly valuable, so it might not be in the safe.
Okay, where do we look next?
Unlike the bedroom door, the front door wasn't damaged. The chain must have been released from the inside. Dolores must have opened the door for the attacker, thinking it was me. I knelt by the blood-stained bread knife in the middle of the room. It wasn't dry yet. Hopefully the blood belonged to the attacker.
The quantity of blood is not significant, teacher. The damage was probably not life-threatening.
Thanks, Monty. That was a good thing, at least. I wasn't sure I could cope with 2 deaths in one day. I scanned the walls, floor, and ceiling of the room, hoping to find a bullet hole.
There's a bullet hole in the wall behind the coffee table, teacher.
I went over there and examined the wall. Good spotting, Monty. Glancing over to the front door, and then at the broken lamp. Next to the coffee table. I was convinced that the shot came from the front door, went through the lamp and into the wall. I smiled in relief. That was good. That probably meant Dolores wasn't hit. Or if she was, it was a through and through.
Teacher, I'm picking up sirens heading our way. We should leave before the police catch us in here.
We haven't found the itinerary yet. Still, Monty was right. I couldn't afford to be arrested. If I was Dolores, where would I hide sensitive documents? Think. Then it hit me. Secret apartments. Dolores loved those. Could she have one in her house too?
Teacher, we have to hurry.
I heard the police sirens approaching too. They weren't very far away. We'll have to deal without the itinerary, Monty. Heading straight for the front door, I exited the house. Glancing around quickly, I spotted a police car turning into South Street just as I was walking past the front lawn.
Whoop whoop!
I turned around and walked away from the incoming police car as calmly as I could. Do not run. Do not panic. Keep steady. Hey you! One of the police officers shouted in my direction. It took everything I had not to break into a sprint right then and there. I kept on walking away as if I hadn't heard the police officer calling out,
You, stop!
I turned into an alley, blocking the police officer's sight of me, and then I broke into a sprint. My feet pounded beneath me on the snow-covered alleyway, hoping I'd get to the other end of the alley in time.
Faster, teacher!
When I finally reached it, I briefly glanced backwards. Before exiting onto the main road, parallel to South Street. No police officer. Did that mean I did it? Not wanting to spend too much time thinking about it, I kept walking down the main street. After a few minutes, I finally breathed a sigh of relief. Somehow, I had managed to avoid being taken in by the police.
I am very happy we managed to avoid prison, teacher. If I was confiscated by the police, I would be all alone.
I wouldn't let that happen, Monty.
Thank you, teacher.
Feeling the adrenaline still coursing through my veins, I hailed a cab.
Are we returning to Professor Soul's place now?
Yes, Monty. I had no idea where Dolores could have gone, or if she was even alright, but there was nothing I could do about that. What I could do, however, was to recover Soul's research. By the time I had arrived at the professor's place, it was already starting to get dark. The door was still slightly ajar. Letting myself in, I headed straight for the basement. Once inside, however, I felt something about the room was different from when I was last there.
Teacher, there's a missing item in this room.
I did not need Marty to tell me what the item was. It was Professor Soul's large chest, which usually contained all his research work. I was too late. Someone had already taken Professor's research. Cursing under my breath, I went towards Soul's body instead, intending to search it. However, before I could do so,
I hear police sirens, teacher. We should go.
Unwilling to risk another close call with the police, I immediately left the basement, ran up the stairs and out of the house. This time I managed to make myself scarce before the police had a chance to spot me.
We should go home as soon as possible, teacher. It's not safe out here.
I sighed in disappointment and exhaustion. Marty was right. I needed to return home, and quickly. Something was happening, and I wasn't sure what. The journey home was passed in silence. I watched as the snow started falling again, more heavily than before. Whether or not the colder weather could be attributed to the sun incident was a hot topic among the meteorologists. When I finally walked into my apartment, Marty pinged me on my wrist.
What are we doing tomorrow, teacher?
That's a good question. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the Flying Falls bus ticket. Why was Professor Soul in such a hurry there? Turning it over, I noticed something peculiar in the back. Falls Central Bus Terminal, 6 p.m.
Who is Professor Soul meeting, Professor?
Whoever it is, it must be important, Marty.
Okay, teacher. Flying Falls it is.
As I lay in bed, I thought about the events of the day. What happened to Soul and Dolores? It couldn't be a coincidence they were both attacked on the same day. Was the murder after the research? Or something else? I felt fatigue taking over my body, my mind sinking into slumber, stealing a moment of peace. Arc 1 completed. You and 33% of players will be taking the bus to Flying Falls in the morning. Arc 2 begins.
Good morning, teacher. The temperature this morning is a cool 20 degrees Fahrenheit. Flying Falls is expecting a high of 35 degrees Fahrenheit during the day and below freezing during the night. I suggest you pack your warmest clothes, teacher.
I groaned as I rolled out of bed. I hadn't managed to sleep much. My mind kept returning to last night's events, dissecting every little detail and making sure I hadn't missed anything. I kept wondering if I could have saved my colleagues. Thank you, Marty. Is there any update in the news of Dolores or Professor Soul?
Yes, teacher. The police have released Professor Soul's name to the public and have confirmed that his death was a homicide. Miss Montague's case has been labeled a domestic disturbance, and her whereabouts are still unknown. They have not, as of yet, connected the two cases, teacher.
Best they don't, Marty. Packing the few things that I would need on my trip did not take long. I had learned recently to pack light and swift at the last moment. Once I was done, it was a simple matter of opening the safe I had hid behind my bedside dresser and storing my few valuables away. I was ready. I took one last glance around my home. I had no idea how long this trip would last. I could be a while before I next laid eyes on familiar comforts. Marty, call the cab.
Okay, teacher. The cab should be here in a few minutes.
Thanks, Marty. I walked over to the window and gazed out of it. The streets and rooftops were covered in thick white snow. The city was sparkling and the gold and red hues of the rising sun. I had a few minutes to enjoy the scenery. Ever since the sun outage incident 96 days ago, I appreciated the beauty of dawn a little more. My thoughts inexplicably wandered over to Sol and Dolores.
Is everything okay, teacher?
I hope Dolores is okay.
I hope so too, teacher. Miss Montague has proven to be resourceful in the past. There is a high likelihood she survived the ordeal.
Thank you, Monty. It was time. Packing up my bag, I exited my home and used the cab Monty ordered to get into Central Station. When I got to the station, I looked at the back of the Flying Falls ticket once more. Who was the professor going to meet at 6 p.m.?
Teacher, our bus should be in aisle E.
Thanks, Monty. I crossed over the other side of the station, watching as a bus or two arrived and left in the other aisles. Bus awaiting aisle E had a large red coyote logo painted on the side. The electronic display on the front of the bus said, Flying Falls, Quebec. I was going to Canada. I suddenly realized I knew nothing about Flying Falls. Nothing. Noticing that the other passengers had already boarded, I climbed into the bus and took a seat next to a woman in a business suit. She was typing something into a smartphone. She seemed busy. Ask the woman about Flying Falls. First time to Flying Falls? I asked. The woman looked briefly before returning to her smart. Second, hopefully last. Hopefully last. That amazing, huh? She didn't bother looking up this time. I'm there to close a deal, she explained. Anything to see there? The stranger in the suit was still typing away furiously on her phone. Aside from the waterfalls, the Lunar Owl. Lunar Owl? An endangered owl species. There's nothing else of worth. A waterfall and an endangered owl species. Were they all Flying Falls had? The professor was only interested in stars and planets and such. It was starting to look like the mysterious rendezvous at 6 p.m. was the only reason Sol was going to Flying Falls. Have you seen the owls? No offense, she said firmly. I'm a little busy at the moment. No, of course, I replied unapologetically. Good luck with your work.
Vroom!
The bus pulled out of the station and started heading northwards on the highway. After about 15 minutes, the buildings outside the window turned into empty, snow-covered fields, devoid of civilization.
Teacher, now is a good time for a nap. Well, thank you, Marty. That's a great idea.
So, everybody, let's I'm gonna probably get some sleep. I hope everyone out there had a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day. 31 choices made. That sounds like an average day for me. Rewind to last arc, reset game. Okay. Let me know if you guys want to see more of this. Yeah. Hugs.